If you got to delete half the Overwatch hero roster, which 21 heroes would you keep in the game to keep it as playable as possible? This is an idea inspired by Great Blue, and I'll remind you guys at the end of the video to check out his video. However, they were comparing TF2 weapons, while we will be talking about the heroes entirely. The goal of this video is to make Overwatch as fun and unique as possible. This means that similar heroes will be fighting each other to fill their specific niche. As an example, Ashe and Widowmaker are both sniper heroes, and therefore at least one of them probably needs to go in order to make room for other unique heroes. Like and subscribe if you end up enjoying, and let's get started. The tiers will be Keep but Rework, and Delete. The Keep but Rework tier will be used for heroes that would benefit from a substantial change due to the other heroes getting removed. As an example, if we remove Junkrat or Bastion, we can have another hero become better at spamming or damage if we would like. I'll be starting with these supports, then go to tanks, then DPS. However, for the first example, let's start with Ashe and Widowmaker since I already mentioned them, and I think they represent this thought experiment pretty well. They fill the same niche in Overwatch as a sniper hero, and therefore one of them should go to keep variety. Widowmaker is the original iconic sniper, but super annoying to play against. Meanwhile, Ashe can be annoying, but not nearly as much as Widowmaker. I would then argue that the average player likes playing against and as Ashe more than Widowmaker, and this is followed up by some research I've done a while ago. And therefore, since I think Ashe creates a healthier gaming environment, I would argue that even though Widowmaker is iconic, she should be sacrificed in favor of Ashe. This is even more controversial since Widowmaker is a decently hot topic in Overwatch, but when we have to eliminate half the heroes in this scenario, Ashe is just a more fair designed hero. Just so you all know, I don't want half the heroes actually deleted from the game, so keep in mind that some heroes who I am perfectly fine with and I think they are fair may get booted in favor of a slightly more fair or popular hero, and that's just a side effect of this thought experiment. A hero that I think perfectly represents this is Baptiste. Baptiste is someone who I would unfortunately have to snap. Not because I hate him or anything, even though his immortality field can be annoying, but instead it's because I sadly think that Kiriko would be better as the remaining immortality hero. This is mainly because she is more popular. There is a reason they make 5 million Kiriko skins. Kiriko isn't even in my top half of supports that I like playing, so it pains to me to include her over other heroes that I play, but it is impossible for me to ignore the fact that she is the third most played hero. You could also argue that Baptiste will overlap with other heroes that I'm going to talk about soon, and obviously it's okay for heroes to overlap even when we're snapping half the heroes, but Baptiste, although fair, is just less popular than most of the people comparable to him. Continuing with supports with immortality, I need to deal with the tree in the room. Lifeweaver is not popular enough for me to have him survive the snap. He is my second favorite support, so this really hurts, but his grip is a very controversial ability that would get annoying to play against every 1 in 3 games. Now, I'm not saying that other heroes can't be annoying, but combined with his lower play rate and some overlap with the other heroes, I just cannot add him. Also, I should mention that overlap in Overwatch isn't nearly as bad as in other games, so it is perfectly okay if heroes do, like I said earlier, but I'm just trying my best to keep it diverse. But feel free to tell me what your list would have looked like in the comments and why. If we are talking about play rate, then Ana and Mercy will need to survive deletion. Ana was going to make it anyways due to her unique and fun playstyle, however her being the top PC support cannot be understated, and Mercy being the top console support is also super important. I know a lot of people don't vibe with Mercy, but for every person who hates her, there's another who loves her. Speaking on Mercy, since she has flight in her ultimate and a general glide as her ability, does this mean that I need to boot Juno? Having multiple flying supports may be too much if there are only 6 supports. However, Juno is the 4th most popular support, and according to my poll, she is the 7th most fun hero to play as. It was a pretty hard decision, so I ended up putting her in Keep but Rework. I know that she is supposed to be the flying support, but either she or Mercy would need to have a toned down flying ability in order to fit into a smaller roster of heroes, and I feel like buffing Juno in other places while nerfing her flight would work better than nerfing Mercy's flight while buffing the rest of her kit. I don't want to see the Overwatch team try and buff res or damage boost. That sounds terrible. But also I think Juno would be perfectly okay as she is. So that leaves 2 spots left between Brig, Iari, Lucio, Mora, and Zenyatta. A good place to start is Lucio and Brig since they both have AoE healing. This decision is pretty easy. I know that people like Lucio better than Brig, so goodbye Flail Woman. Brig was a horrendous balance issue when she came out, so there is no surprise that people still hate her. She obviously isn't that bad in Overwatch 2, however Lucio was the #1 voted most fun hero, so I still think he deserves the spot over her. Last 3 left are Iari, Mora, and Zenyatta. I will sadly have to snap Iari due to her not being as popular. She is perfectly respectable like Baptiste, so it does suck to boot her. So with just Zenyatta and Mora left, Mora is more popular to play as, However, Zenyatta is more respected and fun according to the poll. This is a bit of a rough decision, and I could go either way, but I went with Zenyatta since Mora is typically seen as the character that is more complained about. Mora is actually more popular than Zenyatta, like I said, but I believe that this is because Zenyatta is very easily counterpicked. Since I have a rough idea on what heroes are going to get removed and what are not in the rest of this video, I have a feeling that Zenyatta will fit in more healthily in the game with half the heroes removed than Mora will. As a final reminder, this is just my opinion, and hopefully my logic at least makes sense to you guys. I would actually be perfectly okay if some of these heroes were switched out, like Mora stayed over Zenyatta, but this is what I ended up going with the supports. It is now time to go through the tanks since the DPS are for sure going to be the most difficult to nuke. Reinhardt is staying. You cannot argue with me on that one, he's just way too popular. Maga will be sacrificed on the other hand. He is literally the least played hero in Overwatch, while also being AIDS to play against. I'm going to also nuke Zarya preemptively since she was considered the least fun hero in the fun pool, and I know people who despise her more than Maga, so I'm just gonna get rid of her now. And quickly, I want to consider the dive-like heroes. I feel like we can keep 2 out of the 4 that I'm thinking of right now. The tanks that I am talking about are D.Va, Doomfist, Winston, and Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball is the least popular of the 4, so I feel like he should go. Doomfist is the most unique out of the 3 remaining, so I would keep him. And comparing D.Va with Winston is very hard to do. People have really called me out on deleting Winston to keep D.Va in the game, but D.Va is the second most popular tank, while Winston is currently 6 places lower than her. And D.Va was also 6 on the fun poll. I'm going to put Winston in undecided right now, though we will talk about him in a minute. Oh, by the way, we'll be keeping D.Va. The next comparison I would make is with the more brawl-like tanks. Junker Queen and Roadhog are the 2 I'm talking about. I feel that since they are both shotgun-like heroes with a way to pull and heal, one of them should go. Roadhog has been around longer and is definitely more helpful when there is low heals. However, Junker Queen I feel is less complained about, and Roadhog and Junker Queen have very similar pick rates. So I actually will be using my own judgment on one of these and keep Queen. Junker Queen also ended up getting 2nd place in the fun pool, so that had a huge impact on this decision. The last 4 tanks left besides Winston are Hazard, Orisa, Ram, and Sig. Orisa is picked more than you'd expect. However, I learned the hard way that people absolutely hate her. I personally don't mind Orisa as much as other people, as I feel she is actually pretty easy to kill, but since I use the public's annoyance level as an indicator on what hero should go, I feel like Orisa has to be deleted. Ramattra is seen as the only form change tank, and he is pretty respectable, so I'm actually going to keep him, even though his pick rate is actually really low compared to the other tanks. He is also ranked 5th on the fun pool though, so I guess that's an argument to keep him. Sig is yet another hero with a shield, but he is one of the most respectable tanks ever created. He was so respectable, in fact, that he was the only hero in the fun pool to not be someone's least favorite hero. Therefore, I'm going to keep him. This means that we only have Hazard and Winston left. Unfortunately, I don't know too much about Hazard, hence why I left him until the end. I actually am really unsure on how Hazard plays, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm very bad at him. But I do know that Winston does overlap a little bit with the other dive-like heroes, but I know that very few people dislike him. He's also the funny monkey, and as much as I think Hazard would diversify the game, I think that I would have my head on a pike if I deleted Winston. Therefore, Winston will survive and the newcomer Hazard, well, doesn't. If we were going solely off of gameplay, I do think that Hazard is more popular in that aspect. However, almost everyone likes seeing Winston every once in a while, so I just have to keep him or else I'm going to be hunted down and executed. This does leave us with only the DPS minus Ashe and Widow, who I've already placed, and if you're wondering why I did them first, it's because I brainstormed these ideas in alphabetical order, and since I didn't really have a good counterpart to Ana, Ashe and Widow were the first ones alphabetical with a good example. Also, I got a text message. Who is it? Who are you? Oh, it's my college. I can't dox myself. First off, let's delete Sombra. Okay, now that that is done, Echo and Pharah are the 2 flying heroes. They play similar enough for me to think that one of them should go. Pharah is a little bit more popular, but Echo was way higher in the fun score. Since many people despise Pharah, I feel like Echo should be the one to stay. However, I personally think Echo is far more annoying than Pharah, but I don't think the average person has gone against a good Echo in a long time. And I feel like if people ever played Overwatch with only Echo, I think they would realize that Pharah isn't as bad as Echo, but without being in that theoretical universe, I'll be deleting Pharah and keeping Echo. However, I'm pretty sure people would have been okay with me deleting both of them if I wanted to. Flying heroes are just a little bit annoying. Next, I want to compare Soldier and Sojourn. I'm sure that most people already know that they are somewhat similar, and they probably already know that Soldier is just more popular, and he is more fun according to the fun poll. We also need our gay representation. Since I'm considering nuking Tracer like I did with Sombra, I'm going to put her in undecided for now, but I know so many people who just hate Tracer, and I'm kind of one of them. There's also a chance that both builders might get nuked, so there will be no reliable way for a low-ranked DPS to counter her. Speaking of, I'm nuking Symmetra in favor of Torbjorn. No joke, Torbjorn is just barely picked more and barely more fun than Sim according to the polls and statistics. So this is mostly just vibe-based, and I feel like people would rather Torb. However, instead of keeping him, I'm going to actually be putting him in undecided though for now. Next up is a comparison that might not be super obvious, and that is Venture and Reaper. They are both shortest range, and their abilities have similar movement and invulnerability functionality. If I had my way, Venture would easily topple Reaper. I just straight up think that Venture is a more interesting hero gameplay wise. However, the stats don't back me up here. Reaper got the 10th place while Venture got the 18th in the fun poll, while Reaper is picked twice as much as Venture. That isn't even to mention that Venture, as of the recording of this video, is the least played DPS. The only hero worse than them is Maga. Therefore, I have to put Reaper in keep, and I'll put Venture in undecided since they are my favorite DPS as of right now. But it doesn't look good for them. I'm just coping, I'm sorry. Everyone else left in the DPS category is rough to compare to each other. Hanzo could be compared to either Genji or Junkrat if we spin it a bit, but I'm just going to keep it simple and talk about them case by case. I feel that Genji and Cassidy, just due to their sheer popularity and fun, should immediately be put into keep. Mei is pretty unique, but people do not like her and she isn't played enough, so she is going to go into delete. This leaves us with Bastion, Hanzo, Junkrat, Tracer, Torb, and Venture. 2 can stay, 4 must go unless we are to change some stuff around. Hanzo is the most popular, closely followed by Junkrat and Tracer. Bastion, Torbjorn, and Venture are very low down in comparison. If we skip on over to the fun poll, Junkrat is again at the top, then Bastion, Venture, Tracer, Hanzo, and finally Torbjorn. Keep in mind that the fun poll was to play as, however, people obviously probably lied on there, and just did how much they like the character in general. So that is probably why a character like Hanzo, even though he's at the top of the pick rates, is so low down. Which actually in this case is really helpful, since it will give us an idea on how much people like playing into a certain hero. Anyways, even though I wanted to keep a builder in the game, I'm going to have to boot Torbjorn. He is just way too unpopular. Next, and I didn't want to do this, but I feel like we have to keep Junkrat. Junkrat is just too popular of a DPS, and scored very high on the fun poll, even though many people hate him Nox. Wait, what are you doing here?
There's no way you're adding that disgusting creature.
But he's like the 10th most popular hero.
10th most popular? I'm gonna stick 10 inches up your ass. You're not adding him.
But he fits!
Get him out right now.
No, get out of my video.
Nope, not until he's exterminated.
I'm not gonna do that.
I'm gonna demonetize your video.
Go, out! I don't want to delete Venture, but like, they might be the least hated gameplay-wise out of these 6, but they are just not popular. I'm really curious where they would have placed if they weren't such a controversial hero, and if you haven't tried Venture because of this, please do, it's really fun. Anyways, this means that I have to choose between Bastion, Hanzo, and Tracer. Even though Hanzo is more popular than Tracer and Bastion, I think I have to remove him. He is just so low down on the fun pool that I feel like he would be one of the most complained about heroes in our snapped Overwatch. So this leaves us with just Bastion and Tracer. Tracer has the higher pick rate, but Bastion has the higher fun rate. They both play so differently that they are very hard to compare, so I'm just going to do what I've done with a lot of heroes and remove them based on which one's more annoying. This means that Tracer would actually get removed, in my opinion, and according to the polls I've done, and Bastion will just barely make it into Snapwatch. However, I don't necessarily feel like this list is perfect, especially when I know there's a lot of dedicated Tracer players while there's just not as many Bastion players. Heck, maybe you hate playing against Bastion and really enjoy playing against Tracers. This is where you can comment down your ideas down below, and as a reminder, I try to make this list composed of heroes that everyone is okay with playing as and against, while also keeping as many of the fun ones that I can. That's how someone like Junkrat got in here. We sadly had to cut some decently high-picked heroes like Mora, Tracer, and Widowmaker, but just as a final note, please do not take this video too seriously. They aren't going to delete your favorite hero, and I just wanted to make another video where I can delete Sombra again.